Baalbek, Lebanon. The 9,000-year-old Temple of Jupiter contains 3 of the largest monolithic stones in the world, weighing approximately 1,000 tons, or 2 million pounds each. Pumapunku, Bolivia, scattered across a high desert plateau, are precisely cut 100-ton blocks, believed to date back at least 2,000 years, and perhaps much earlier.
Or, you know, we could go back to talking about the fake reality and the constant enslavement, the constant show for the slaves day in and day out. I mean, what's more interesting, learning about this or hearing the blatant obvious, you know, shitters full every day? I mean, I don't know if it can be more obvious at this point. I mean, look at everything that's going on out there. There's no representation. there's no voting. There's no opinion from the public. There's no citizens of the United States or anything. I mean, clearly there's a huge effing problem. And it's like everybody's ignoring it. Why is there? How can that be? That's why I say that. You know, but who cares, right? But who cares? That's what everyone's gonna be. Who cares? And who are you gonna go to? Pretty much, who are you gonna go to? Who cares back there? No one on there is gonna do anything. So, might as well just keep unlocking, keep unraveling, keep figuring out how the universe and how everything was built, you know, instead of being distracted by nonsense day in and day out. I mean, imagine if they talked about half the stuff that I talked about on television. Do you think our society would be in trouble that it is right now? No, it wouldn't. But, you know, day in and day out, people will constantly be distracted. People will be constantly enslaved. People will be constantly kept down and oppressed in a metaphysical way, you know, until, you know, China does come here in 2050. So, you know, until we get a president punishment or until we get some real reality changing things, I mean, does any of this need any deep philosophical analysis? I mean, do you really need to listen to Rush Limbaugh every day for any of this, or Sean Hannity, or any? No, you don't. I mean, that's the sad, pathetic thing about this reality, because nothing's being done. So we'll just continue on to learning about, you know, ancient civilization.
The Giza Plateau, Egypt. The Great Pyramid is built from more than 2.3 million limestone bricks, each weighing a staggering 5,000 pounds. All around the world stand colossal monuments to mankind's ancient past. Gigantic structures that have endured for thousands of years, built with stone blocks so massive that modern builders have not even attempted to duplicate them.
Our 988 cat loader can probably lift a 22-ton boulder, just for perspective, and it can probably roll and drag along the ground maybe a 40-ton boulder. But when you're talking a 50-ton boulder, then we need to bring in cranes, hydraulic jacks, steel beams, girders. It's a whole nother set of tools, even with modern-day technology. I mean, I can only imagine how they would move boulders that size. It baffles my mind. I have no idea. It's crazy to think about.
They say that real knowledge, you know, is life experience, you know, exploration, travelers. Think about all those ancient human scientists, all those ancient human thinkers. Think about how many of them just traveled the world and just walked from place to place, you know, just to gather knowledge. That's how interested they were. Is it no wonder that why no one knows anything nowadays? Is it no wonder why everyone's so dumbed down? It's because no one does anything or goes anywhere or sees anything. It's the same thing that has to do with, you know, the round earth and the pilots. Why do the pilots say the earth's round? Because they go, you know, everywhere. Notice how I didn't say all around the globe, so people would have been like, oh, you're brainwashed by some globe lobby. No. But notice how, Google, Amazon, these evil corporations. Notice how they want to build these dome bubble cities. Notice how they want to put everyone inside of a dome or a bubble. Inside the dystopic future, remember, you are nothing more than an animal that needs to be corralled. What is that ultimate purpose? Oh yeah, that's to limit your creativity. That's to limit your humanity. That's to limit your knowledge. Because when you're kept inside of a bubble and you're not shown anything, how can you believe anything? How can you receive any knowledge? Because at that point, you obviously realize you're nothing more than a mere animal inside of a cage, and the human psyche will just break down. Look at everything that's happening to us right now. Is it no wonder why our society is crumbling?
How is it possible that 10,000 years ago, our ancestors moved around the most massive of stones? Well, the answer is either another previous super civilization existed here on Earth, or extraterrestrials imparting technological knowledge to us.
Ancient astronaut theorists suggest such structures provide physical evidence that extraterrestrial beings visited Earth and assisted our ancestors in the distant past. And each of these 3 megalithic sites, as well as numerous others, have very specific stories behind them that say they were built not by men, but by the gods, using the power of levitation.
The gods. It's always a funny term when we mess with that term, the gods. I always felt the gods as, no more than ultra intelligent humans. Ultra intelligent beings of a remnant past. Because if you remember, they drown out the Book of Enoch like it doesn't matter. But why does it exist in our history? If it doesn't matter. So we gotta look to the book. So in the Book of Enoch, in the Watchers, look at that. They soon begin to lust for human women. What's this? And at the prodding of their leader Samaza, defect in mass to illicitly instruct humanity and procreate among them. So we know some kind of beings came into this plane that weren't supposed to be here because they defected in mass. According to the Book of Enoch, if you go read the whole thing. It's a lot. But anyway, we noticed here that illicitly instruct humanity. What hidden knowledge, runes, mystic in the spiritual arts. If it's not real, why is it a part of history? Think about that. What ancient knowledge, what could it explain? The ancient civilization, our ancient past, is it all united into one? It says right here that Samaza and his associates further taught their human charges arts and technology such as weaponry, cosmetics, mirrors, sorcery, and other techniques that would otherwise be discovered gradually over time by humans, not foisted upon them all at once. Think about it. Where do all these ancient designs, where do all these pagan symbols, where do all these runes even come from? Most people can't even tell you that. Most of them have deep occult, or I guess deep occultism behind them, secrets, dark beginnings, the mysticism, the mystery of our planet and plane. If they weren't real, if they didn't really work, why did the Nazis believe in them so much? Why did the SS, why did the Vril Society, why did the Thule Society, why do we have all these secret societies on our planet if these, weren't real? Why do the globalists work so hard to suppress humanity? Why do they work so hard to corral the rest of humanity into a bubble if it wasn't so real? Why do they drown out your spirituality if it wasn't so real? So notice how we see that it's not foisted upon them, but gradually over time. Remember that God flooded the earth in an attempt to wipe the technology and knowledge clean, a restart. But what if some technology, was found today? That's how we have Antarctica. Oh my gosh. Everything that was there. Imagine, because he can't destroy the technology. That's why he flooded it in an attempt to get rid of it. But what if some of it is found? That's why we have those breakaway civilizations, the SSP and everything. our reality in life is an extreme lie.
Some ancient mythologies speak of the fact that some of these stones were put into place with sound, that these things all of a sudden levitated into place. What the local legend of Stonehenge talks about is that those big stones were transported by way of levitation.
Similar to the mythical story of Stonehenge, the ancient legends of Bolivia say that the megalithic stones of Pumapunku were floated into place. In the 5th century BC, the Greek historian Herodotus wrote that the Egyptians were given knowledge from the guardians of the sky on how to float the massive limestone blocks with which they built the Great Pyramid.
What we see is the very real possibility that extraterrestrial civilizations visited Earth all throughout the world, and that each time they did, they felt it was very important to impart this sacred knowledge about the importance of acoustic frequencies in the keys to unlocking the mysteries of the universe.
Ooh, frequencies and acoustics are the keys to the universe. Well, that makes absolutely perfect sense, because those are both forms of energy. And think about it, you're taking that energy and you're manipulating the energy fields of those other objects around it. Unbelievable. We see that the Egyptians received knowledge from the sky gods. Could they be people who survived the flood? Could it be remnants of curious, human beings when the earth was still fresh and things weren't really buried as deep, and people were still discovering some of the technology that was wiped away by the flood? But even if they did have this technology, most people wonder, well, what powers their technology? Where did they receive this power? Well, if we look at the planetary grid system and ley lines, it makes absolutely perfect sense. Remember, they used frequencies, acoustics, sound waves, gravitational forces. I mean, all these things that we can barely understand today, they already had access, already had knowledge to, which is why they were able to just do these miraculous things. Unbelievable. And we would look at the ley lines around the planet. They always intersect in these, interesting places, as you've seen on Ancient Aliens. But you know what else I think of when I think of ley lines? I go all the way back to ancient China. Ancient China already knew the secrets, of energy and life and mysticism. Because why else do they have Feng Shui? Feng Shui is just, claims to use energy forces to harmonize individuals with their surrounding environment. Makes absolute perfect sense if you study Dr. Masaru Emoto's work, or if you've looked at it. I mean, think about it. There's water vapor already in the air around you, and when you engage in feng shui, you're shifting your energies, you're using your consciousness to resonate through all that water vapor in the air, creating your own environment of good and love. It makes, you're charging your environment with good energies. Unbelievable.
The University of Bristol, England, January 17th, 2017. Researchers unveil a prototype for what they call a portable tractor beam, a handheld device that can levitate small objects using only sound waves.
Recently, the University of Bristol came up with a handheld device with an array of speakers that allows the holder of this to actually focus sound waves and sound waves alone, and then levitate small pieces of light material. When we look at this portable tractor beam, can we extrapolate the idea that this is a technology in its infancy, where in ancient times it was actually being used to levitate large stones?
I've done a few videos on the RDT&E programs, and how, they're working on tractor beam technology, teleport technology, whatever black budget technologies that they're working on that people still have no idea, even from the 80s when they were starting to get all crazy about all that stuff, when they were about to do the mass reveal, you know, before 9/11. Oh, and then the, what is it, $21 trillion just happened to be disappeared and everything. I mean, it all just makes way too much sense if you really get into all of it. But get this. They get technology, you get nothing. You get the controlling pieces used to enslave you. You know, you get the remnants, you get the hand-me-down while they're so advanced, while they progress so far off our world, and they just leave us behind, and they summon the Antichrist. And, you know, the return of Jesus Christ, you know, we're just left here to be slaughtered like animals kept behind them. I mean, isn't it just truly sickening to just sit here day in and day out and deal with this constant enslavement? But I mean, who are you gonna go to? What are you gonna do about it? But anyway, we're gonna learn more about ancient Egypt in the next episode.